I'm going to call Grist on stage. Grist, come on up and we'll get you set up.
If you're a developer, you wouldn't use a spreadsheet to maintain your application data. The best tool for that is usually a relational database. On the other hand, thank you. If you're just working on some project and keeping track of some data, whatever it is, a spreadsheet is a great choice. It gets the job done. But over time, people and businesses find themselves in what is known as the spreadsheet hell. Grist is our answer to this. It combines the best ideas of spreadsheets and relational databases. Let's call it the relational spreadsheet. So allow me to introduce Paul, our CTO, who will show you what Grist can do.
Thanks, Dimitri. So I'd like to start this demo somewhere familiar to spreadsheet users. So I'm going to import an Excel spreadsheet into Grist and then see what Grist can do for you. So what I'm importing here is a spreadsheet with investment data in various companies over a 4-year period. So far so familiar, it looks like a spreadsheet. It's got 2 tables, a list of companies, a list of investment rounds in those companies. Okay, so what can Grist do? Suppose you want to drill down into this data and find out what investments are being made for it. So we can ask Grist to take that column, convert it from plain text to a reference. In databases, that would be a foreign key. Apply that, and as soon as you do that, you've unlocked the relational part of this data and all sorts of pieces of the UI. So one thing we can do straight away is to tell Grist to select the investments based on the company we're looking at. And now, as we navigate around in our companies, we see the investments that were made in them. Another thing we might like to do is, as we're navigating around, to see a detailed view of the companies we're looking at. So I'll bring up another page called a card in Grist, that is the detailed view. And now, as I move around, you see both the investments for the company and details about it.
And just to jump in here for a minute, just want to point out what you're seeing here. We started with just 2 flat sheets of data, and very quickly we created this view where we can drill into data. We can see the details of the company, the nested table of investments. It feels a lot more like an application. And notice, not just for viewing data, you can edit data right here, or add records and so on.
Okay, so that's drilling down into data. Another thing we might want to do is, if we don't care about the individual companies, is to look at patterns of investment over time. So in our investments table, we have the dates at which investments happened and the amount. So this is a spreadsheet. We can use formulas, make new columns. So let's suppose we want a column that is the year of investment. We can take the funded at column and pull out the year. In Grist, formulas are Python, pure Python. So great, now we have the year and the amount. We can ask Grist to summarize the sigma button here, our investments by year. Okay, so there we have a summary per year of investments. That doesn't tell us much. What if we want to see what kinds of companies are being invested in? This table doesn't have that information, but we can get it through the relation we set up earlier. So let's add a new column. Let's call it category, and pull in the company category code. Okay. So now we have.
Sorry, can I jump in again here? Can you open that cell?
Yep.
So this simple formula pulls in data from a linked company record. And just if you too have spent hours of your life on VLOOKUPs, like I have, I'm just pointing out how easy it is in Grist to use data from linked tables.
Okay. So then the last thing I'll show you is we can then make a chart of, again, summarizing investments by, this time by category, by year. And let's go ahead and select the year based on the breakdown we just did. And then customize that really quick to show just the data we want. Make it a pie chart. Give it a little bit more room. And now as we go from year to year, you can see how the breakdown is changing as new areas of investment open up. Dimitri?
Okay, thank you, Paul. So there you go, dynamic charts, Python formulas, relational layouts. To sum up, Grist is a relational spreadsheet to organize your data, work with it, and make you more productive. So visit getgrist.com to try it out. There is a free plan. We have how-to videos and tutorials. We are responsive to support requests. We are very interested in your feedback. So give it a try, tell your friends. Thank you.
All right, time for questions. Who has questions for Grist? I see Dan has a question back there.
Yeah, hi. I'm just kind of curious, how, both sort of functionally in terms of the kind of end user you have in mind, how would you characterize that as different from, say, Airtable or something like that? Thanks.
Grist has a similar purpose to Airtable. In Grist, there is a lot more power, I guess I would say. It's more suitable for complex problems where you want to create these views, let's say, where you have multiple kinds of data on the screen. They're linked. There are non-trivial formulas. Formulas support actually Python, so you can do kind of anything, calculate in any way you want in the formulas, so it's just more powerful.
Great. Question in the back over there? Oh, right here. Okay.
I guess I have a similar question here, to your left. Your left. No, I have a similar question as to how would you compare to something like Tableau, who is doing graphics and also has like a big behemoth like Salesforce behind them. How would you say your product would compare against something like that?
I guess there is overlap. Our product is, we try to make it more like a spreadsheet where it's really easy to get started, really easy to use. But you can do a lot of the things you can do in Tableau and so on. Compared to Tableau specifically, I mean, we don't have a focus on handling big data, let's say, but we do have a focus on it being interactive with, you can use it as a spreadsheet, you can enter data in it. It can be your, for your workflow as well, not only for data visualization.
Great question in the back. Right here. Is it a vest you're wearing?
Oh yeah, that's right. With the vest. My question is related to the Python feature that you have. How fully featured is that Python kind of coding interface? Like, can you do more types of analysis involving, like, perhaps like a list comprehension or like a MapReduce kind of thing to analyze a larger amount of data than just with like the normal, you know, sum formula or something?
It's a full Python. You can do list comprehensions. We didn't show it here, but like you can have like multi-line formula. You can make it as big as you like. You've got the full standard library of Python.
Great. Two more questions. Did I see someone in the very back? Yeah. On the bleachers in the maroon shirt.
When you're importing those flat files and you're doing all the references, what are some of the limits that you've seen in the browser? Is it all happening in the browser? And like, what are the row limits that you get to, like 1 million plus, etc.?
Let's see. If you're trying to see a very big table in the browser, I think there might be some limit where our implementation doesn't just render everything. It's much more efficient than that. There might still be some limit beyond which it gets unusable, but it's well above 100,000 rows, let's say. But usually you don't care to see 1 million rows in one view. Usually your 1 million rows are linked to something. So we have a customer who has many millions of rows, Like for example, if you look at investments, like let's say you have some time data that's linked to something. If you select, let's say, a company, you want to see their metrics over time. That for any particular record, you're only seeing a small subset of data. But that said, our limitations are similar to spreadsheets, and because we load data into memory to do calculations, so there are some options for skipping that and trading space, amount of rows, but losing some functionality in formulas.
Okay, one last question, I think right here.
You demonstrated the Python string a couple of times, and I'm wondering if you have a notion of some more intuitive kind of drag and drop interface that wouldn't require the user to learn and be versed in Python.
Good question. Well, one thing is we support most Excel formulas, like Excel syntax. That formula, like date.year, you could write it as uppercase year, parentheses date, if you're familiar with Excel. For some things like like pulling in linked data from, like the exact example we saw, there is actually a bit in the UI for a reference column. You can select it in the side panel where you can just select one of the available columns. But for anything more complicated, you type in the code. So.
Awesome, well thank you so much. Great to know.